First of all, this, what you hear on the background, is the music of Franz von Chossy, a very good friend of mine who was so gracious as to give me his music for the purpose of this video. Okay, and second of all, this is a Leica M6. It's a legendary Leica M6 from 1998. And this is a, well, very famous but not so legendary Vilia camera from the Soviet Union. It's quite plasticky. You can really hear. You can hear the noises that the old Soviet plastic makes. On the other hand, this is a very, very well engineered and very well designed, and that's why it was earning itself in the history of photography, in the history of photographic equipment rather. And for the purpose of this test, which I find it to be very funny, I was combining these two lenses. I was combining this Leica Summicron 40mm, which was made for the Leica CL camera back in the 60s, I presume, and this 40mm as well from Vilia, which I think it's a piece of crap, and I think it's rather a joke. It's not a serious lens, but it actually makes sense in the logic of this lomography, this art movement that I never really understood and I never really accepted. So, but I have to acknowledge its existence. Well, this 40mm lens has an f4, and this, of course, being a Summicron, has an f2. All Summicrons are having f2, and this being made for the Leica CL was never actually made for Leica M, but it has the same mount. It actually triggers automatically the viewing frame of a 90mm lens. So for the sake of this test, I had to put it on the Leica M6 and jam a piece of, like a toothpick, a piece of wood into this lever to keep it in place for the 35mm frame, which is of course not 40, but it's close enough to a 40. Okay, so for the purpose of this test, I was loading them with Ilford HP5 Plus film, which in my opinion is the best film ever made, best black and white film ever made. It's an ISO 400, and it has the biggest dynamic range of any film that I know of. And I was developing them both in Rodinal, and yeah, you will see the results. It's quite fascinating. I mean, okay, how do you see a lens that's brilliant like the Leica? You're seeing it that's perfectly rendering the image from corner to corner. I mean, to have an image perfectly rendered in the center of the lens, it's not such a big deal, it's not a big problem, but to have it from corner to corner, sharp and perfectly rendered, that's a job for Leica. Okay, it's a job for many other prime lenses like Zeiss's or, I don't know, Voigtlanders, some Voigtlanders, not all of them, but definitely not a job for a Vilia. And well, this is totally plastic. I mean, it has a shutter here on the lens, not up there, and it has only 1, 2, 3, 4 exposure times, so 30, 60, 125 and 250. And for the sake of this test, I was like going on the Leica only on the aperture that the Vilia can make, and only on the exposure times that the Vilia can make. And yeah, I went out around my neighborhood with my girlfriend, taking pictures of her, taking pictures of the surroundings, houses, landscapes, trees, whatnot. And you will clearly see a difference in the rendering quality. You will see a difference in the details, in the very fine, minute details of in the micro contrasts that you can see on the leaves, for example, on the very tiny leaf textures and wall textures and iron textures like steel frames, and yeah, it's really a difference. You will clearly see it. Okay, so I hope you will enjoy it and enjoy the differences.